A very, very pleasant afternoon to all. And this is definitely a very tough task where after lunch you will have to listen to me. So I hope I do justice. Welcome to all the participants and best wishes to the RE Tech team for holding this event on such a relevant content. And I am basically from Hitachi Energy into power consulting. We are the fortunate or the unfortunate ones who actually integrate all the different kind of energies, different kind of technologies into the grid. And it's a pleasure being here because the complete idea is co-creation of solutions where, there's no one right, no one wrong. In fact, it's also fortunate to have Anil Razdan sir here, who I was just mentioning, we have watched him on news channels debating about the coal shortages, about the national issues and so on. So it's very important for all of us to understand that we are talking of India vision at 75 years, at 100 years. We are moving towards renewable. 100% renewable sounds really very good, but actually what are those implications? What are those important factors that you have to consider so that the integration becomes a seamless integration? And when we say seamless integration, yes, renewable is a gift. As and when available, we should take it. So you talk of solar, wind, and so on. So all renewables have their own inherent characteristics of being intermittent, and that's where it becomes very important that how do we balance these? We have new stakeholders in almost every sector of the power value chain. You talk of generation, and you have renewable, solar, wind, microgrids. You talk of transmission, you have green corridors, the voltage drop issues, and so on. So there are sectors where we are trying to target when we talk of energy transition as organization, no matter what institute you are into, no matter what phase you are into, the kind of industry or the sector you are into, sustainability or energy transition is one aspect which is going to touch each and every working or a function of yours. So if you are a large industry, if you are a utility, energy transition is going to govern, and it is the energy is a very relevant industry sector because it in a way forms the backbone of the complete infrastructure. If you have heard to the financial budget announced recently, we hear of digital rupee. So, by next year, you will again hear of cryptocurrency and all soft kind of currencies and so on. So, as a power system engineer, as an energy transition, what does this mean for us? This means there are going to be more financial transactions. This means the kind of country, the demography, the large market that India has is really huge. So the kind of data centers, the kind of sector you would see into your system is going to be huge. And when we talk of segments like data center, they ask for a very, very high level of redundancy. If you would go to, for example, a petrochemical refinery, you would talk of N+1. But in case of data centers, we are talking of N-4 redundancy. That's the kind of redundancy we are looking towards. So one side, you have the large utilities, the large power plants where you are talking of large battery energy storage systems. And that's where it becomes very important, the kind of technology that you are selecting, the sensitivity. Again, whenever you are bringing this new stakeholder into the picture, what are the kind of ramp up, the ramp down times that you see? Because in comparison to the conventional ones, you will not have any inertia. There are so many R&D projects on fault detection that are ongoing in the industry, because we have to appreciate the fact then when we talk of coal power plants, when we talk of coal-fired generations, turbines, boilers, we are talking of a high level of inertia into the system, which gives you a very good fault current. So as a relay coordination engineer, you would be happy, okay, there's a good range of protection. I could design my protection philosophy very efficiently and so on. But when we come to renewables, when we come to energy transition, majorly you will be dealing with IBRs, which are inverter-based resources. So there's no rotating machines, the kind of fault currents that you will see will be very near to the load current. So what do? How do you actually detect that fault? There are new relay models, algorithms that we are working on. In fact, for few of the cases in our global counterpart units, we've also installed meters in different utilities, different aspects, where you could see when actually an islanding occurs, does the relay operate? Because it's, if you see our, many other global counterparts, they have implemented renewable, but at the same time, a small climate change could bring along a high level of catastrophe where you hear of forest fires now. In the first half, we have Australian gentleman, he spoke of forest fires. So it's no more a faraway reality, it's there, the kind of heat, the kind of sudden climate that we see here in India and the impact that it has started to have. Now, coming to the energy transition, we have to be very, very conscious in whatever stakeholder role we are into of implementing these technologies in a sustainable manner. So once if you decide to put up a solar, what is the kind of application you would like to go for, the amount of battery energy storage that you would like to have into your system, what's the kind of application that you're looking for? Is it a frequency regulation? Is it a kind of peak load shaving? Is it a kind of economical decision from your end, and so on? So we do have many pilots which are being put up by reputed institutes for the large battery energy storage system. At the same time, as I said, India with a beautiful demography, with a very good irradiation level, with a different kind of cities and states and the space constraint, again, your selection of the battery energy storage integration would again change. And mostly as an elite customer, what we see nowadays is that we have been asked to present the true representation of the best control models. So that would mean that you actually prove when you connect your large solar or wind power plant into the grid, it is giving a real-time response to the kind of load or the kind of control signal that you are putting in. At the same time, we are covering a large range of sectors. We talked of transmission. Moving on to the distribution, there are pockets. There are the concept of microgrids that we are seeing. In fact, if you are aware of the kind of renewable targets that India has, we have had a good amount of large renewables. But now we would also see it coming in pockets, in different rooftop solars. How do you have the concept of a microgrid? You may, as an industry, you may have to revamp your electrical system. So you would define that this is, we may have to go carbon neutral by say 2025. Then how do you go about it? You need to go to the kind of emissions that your particular, say you are in an industry, you are in a college, in an office and so on, what's the kind of electricity that you are using? So is it a fossil-free electricity? Are you buying it from the state utility? If yes, then what's the kind of carbon emissions? Would you like to enter into a power purchase agreement? That again has its own implications. How do you go about it? What about having a solar rooftop, but at the same time the kind of redundancy? Recently there were guidelines issued by the government where the distribution scheme is open. Previously you had a specific amount of rooftop solar where you could supply into the grid. That has substantially reduced now. So you would hear the concept of solar biscuits now. In case you are a commercial complex, a building, and you do not really want to go through the hassle of having a solar rooftop, you could readily buy those biscuits from the market and so on. So there are a lot of, at the same time, when we talk of the energy industry, one side is the demand, and second is it's very important to understand that when we talk of energy transition, when we talk of sustainability, is the right technology really available in the market? Do you have those kind of products? So if you know SF6, that is one gas which has very, very high carbon emissions. So are there products where you could replace this particular gas? Are there processes in your organization which you could revise and reduce the carbon emissions? In fact, for the top 1,000 companies, presently it is voluntarily where you have to define what's your carbon emission, and so on, and in the coming 1 or 2 years, it's going to become compulsory. So just as a businessman, when you have your profit and loss statements, at the same time you would have to tabulate, you would have to declare it. These are the kind of carbon emissions that we are producing. These are the countermeasures that we are taking, and how even going to the aspects of energy transition where we talk of carbon tax, if you are a manufacturer, going ahead in case of imports, in case of exports, you would like to review the kind of process you have, the kind of carbon emissions that are being put into the assembling or say the manufacturing of that particular product. And in fact, from few of the customers, we even, if you are aware, conventionally we knew of the preferred vendor list. Now we are also being asked of what are the kind of carbon emissions, the energy transition that we are undergoing. And so, you may form a sort of green club where such practices are being encouraged and so on. So overall, I would, how many minutes do I have, sir? Okay, I think I'm nearing my 10 minutes. So overall, as a summary, I had some good 13, 14 slides. So I think all of you are saved. I'm not going through all of that due to the paucity of time. But in a nutshell, I would really like to urge that as a stakeholder, each and every one of us has a role to play in the energy transition. You may come from finance, you may come from business development, a manufacturer, a consumer, and so on. But whatever activity is ongoing right now, please see it again under the specs of sustainability. Keep a check on your carbon emissions. What is it that you can improve? There are new segments of customers coming up, new segments of requirements coming up. In fact, we also had a very elite customer who said that, this is the kind of plant I would like you to set, and I would like you to use just 10% of the land allotted. So as a person who's doing engineering, as a person who's doing the layout drawings, it's a very important point. So that's where optimizing, going ahead with the energy transition, sooner or later, we all have to reach there. So as stakeholders, we have to co-create this solution and move towards it. I would really welcome questions from each one of you or any feedback. I'll be glad to have them. Thanks a lot for patiently listening and staying awake.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivani. Can you please clarify what are these solar biscuits and how does it operate? Solar biscuits that you referred to, and how does it work?
Thank you for that question. And I'm sure as an R&D person, these things always click our minds. So if you see on the national scenario, there are a lot of disruptive policies that are going on. When we, example, talk of EV charging infrastructure, there were kind of anxieties in the market where we said it is consumer anxiety, energy anxiety, charge anxiety, where the consumer is not sure what it's going to cost, gaadi mileage kitna degi, and so on, all those aspects. So even at that time, we had disruptive technologies that if you talk of highway, you would really require very, very fast charging. Now, the street light system is already there. Can we have some charging points there? So there were certain startups based on that. Similarly, we have the solar biscuit, which is a kind of new concept. However, it is in the pioneering stage where you would like you have the PPA, which is meant for large contract demands. In case of solar biscuits, it will be meant for small pockets of energy where you have an organization who is going to account and claim those carbon emissions into your account. But it's a very hassle-free one. If you are changing your location, how do you go about it, and so on. So that's the kind of concept that comes behind it, that as a consumer, I'm not sure whether I have that much of space to put my solar panel. What happens if it's the monsoon season? Does it require cleaning? Does it get recorded in the bill, and so on. So those are the kind of handy solar biscuit buy and sell is a new concept which is yet to be proved and established. Yeah. Hope I was able to answer.
Okay, thank you, Shivani.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.